Let's jump right in. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're not just reading a biography, we're dissecting an absolute masterclass in corporate strategy. We're going to break down how one guy literally rewired supply chains, capitalized on massive market inefficiencies, and pulled off a strategy so bold they still teach it in business schools today. To really wrap our heads around the scale here, think about this number, 2 crore rupees. That is roughly what Reliance Industries makes every single minute today. Just let that sink in for a second. Every 60 seconds, a literal fortune is made. But to truly understand the sheer genius behind this empire, we've got to go back to the very beginning. Because, spoiler alert, it definitely didn't start with billions in the bank. So how exactly did an ordinary clerk pull this off? Picture this. It's the early 1950s, and a young Dhirubhai Ambani sails to Aden, Yemen. He's working for Besson and Company, literally standing out in the blistering heat, filling up cars with petrol for just 300 rupees a month. No trust fund, no elite connections, no MBA. Just a teenager who used to sell snacks to temple crowds back in Gujarat. But he had something way better than cash. He had a relentless hunger and this freakish ability to spot opportunities where others saw nothing. Part 1. Finding the silver arbitrage.
Long before he was an industry titan, Dhirubhai had this almost superhuman eye for system inefficiencies. The math on his very first hustle is just staggering. In Aden, the local currency was the Yemeni rial, which was stamped out of solid silver. Dhirubhai spots this crazy loophole. The exchange value of 1 rial coin was equal to 10 British pounds. But if you melted that exact same coin down, the raw silver inside it was worth 12 British pounds on the London bullion market. I mean, you do the math. What did he do? He bought up every rial he could get his hands on, melted them into ingots, and pocketed a direct, completely risk-free profit of 2 pounds per coin. He did this for months, stacking up serious capital, until the authorities finally realized the coins were vanishing and shut it down. But he didn't even sweat it. He just took his profits and walked away.
Part 2. Mastering the textile trade. Fast forward to 1958. A 26-year-old Dhirubhai heads back to Bombay with 50,000 rupees and a plan. He sets up shop in this tiny 350-square-foot room with 1 phone, a table, and 3 chairs. He teams up with his cousin, Champikal Damani, to launch the Reliance Commercial Corporation. And right away, he's hunting for the next big inefficiency. He finds it in the government's notorious license raj. See, India had a massive shortage of synthetic threads, like nylon and polyester, right? But imports were heavily restricted. However, the government offered these things called replenishment or rep licenses. If you exported 100 rupees of textiles, you earned the right to import 20 rupees of artificial thread. Dhirubhai realizes that a ton of exporters weren't even using their import licenses. So he aggressively buys up those unused licenses at a premium. Practically overnight, he completely corners India's synthetic thread import market, flipping this highly demanded thread to local manufacturers for insane profit margins. But look, not everyone is cut out for that level of aggression. A huge rift opens up between Dhirubhai, who was all gas and no brakes, and his cousin Champikal, who wanted to play it safe. In 1965, predicting a massive price surge, Dhirubhai aggressively hoards a mountain of synthetic thread. Champikal totally panics and demands they dump the inventory, so Dhirubhai sells it to himself. He buys out the inventory, watches the prices absolutely skyrocket weeks later exactly like he predicted, makes a killing, and then buys his cousin out of the business for 6 lakh rupees. Now, he's running the whole show. Part 3. The only Vimal revolution. By 1966, Dhirubhai decides that just supplying the thread isn't enough anymore. He wants to actually manufacture the premium textiles himself. He's moving from middleman to brand creator. He buys land in Naroda, Gujarat, starting out with just 4 knitting machines. But he wasn't just making cloth. He launched the iconic Only Vimal brand. When established textile unions and wholesalers tried to freeze him out, he just bypassed them completely. He built this massive franchise-style distribution network directly to retailers, literally promising to eat their losses if the clothes didn't sell. Combine that with a jaw-dropping 1 crore rupee annual ad budget, and by 1979, those 4 little machines had blown up into a 25 lakh square foot factory with 5,000 employees. Reliance was officially India's biggest textile producer. But to scale a beast like that, you need serious capital. And that brings us to a total game changer in Indian corporate history, the 1977 IPO. Before this, the stock market was basically a private club for the ultra-rich and big institutions. Dhirubhai brought it straight to the middle class. He offered 2.8 million shares at just 10 rupees a pop. The result? Total madness. It was oversubscribed 7 times over by 58,000 investors. And it is so easy to see why he became a literal hero to the common man. Those shares bought for 10 rupees, they rocketed to 50 rupees within months of listing in 1978. Investors 5x their money almost instantly. He democratized wealth creation in a way India had never really seen. His rock star status got so crazy that by 1986, 30,000 people showed up for the annual shareholder meeting. There wasn't a single hall in Bombay that could fit them, so they had to host a corporate meeting in a massive open field. Part 4. Beating cartels and rivals. Of course, when you grow that fast, you make powerful enemies. Going into the 1980s, we enter an era of intense corporate warfare. And Dhirubhai proved over and over that he would do absolutely whatever it took to protect his empire. In 1982, an alleged bear cartel tried to completely tank Reliance's stock. The strategy was simple. They borrowed shares and short-sold them at 131 rupees, hoping to cause a panic, crash the price, buy them back dirt cheap, and pocket the difference. But they walked right into a trap. A mysterious group of buyers, wildly believed to be backed by Ambani, though it was never officially proven, stepped up and just absorbed every single share the bears dumped. Instead of crashing, the price squeezed all the way up to 201 rupees. The short sellers were trapped, forced to buy shares at catastrophic losses just to return what they borrowed. The attackers were financially ruined, and Reliance walked away stronger than ever. The license raj of the 80s was an absolute political and corporate minefield. We're talking a bitter rivalry with Nusli Wadia of Bombay dying, where convenient customs delays and roadblocks always miraculously seemed to hit his competitor. This sparked a full-blown media war, with Ramnath Goenka of the Indian Express complete with explosive exposés by journalist Swaminathan Gurumurthy. Reliance even got hit with CBI inquiries and 27 crore rupees in excise evasion notices. It was an incredibly turbulent era, and Dhirubhai used every ounce of persuasion, influence, and sheer willpower he had to fight battles across business, media, and the government. Part 5. The ultimate backward integration. But all those battles, they were just a warm-up for the final act of his life, where severe physical challenges met his unyielding resilience. In 1986, the crushing stress finally took its toll, and Dhirubhai suffered a massive stroke that paralyzed his right side. A lot of people wrote him off. They thought the Ambani era was done. But his mind was still razor-sharp. Just a few years later, in 1989, a devastating flash flood completely wiped out their brand-new Padalganga factory, causing hundreds of crores in damage. But under the leadership of his son Mukesh, they didn't just sweep up the mud. They literally dismantled, cleaned, and reassembled every single machine. The entire plant was fully operational again in exactly 1 month. Unbelievable. And this perfectly sets up his master strategy. If you look closely, every single move Dhirubhai made was a deliberate step backward down the supply chain. Think about it. He starts out making textiles, but to make textiles, you gotta buy polyester threads. So what does he do? He builds a plant to make his own threads. But wait, threads are made from petrochemicals, so he builds plants to make his own chemicals. But chemicals come from refined crude oil. To get total control over his costs and be 100% self-reliant, he needed to refine his own oil. That right there, that is the textbook definition of backward integration. Which brings us to the ultimate realization of his dream. In 1993, he announces India's first private sector oil refinery in Jamnagar. This was an earth-shattering $6 billion project, the single largest private industrial investment in India at the time. They built it in just 3 years, and by the early 2000s, this one mega refinery was processing 25% of all of India's crude oil. He literally bought the entire supply chain. And here is a fun, totally surprising little fact to break up all that heavy industry talk. Because the Jamnagar refinery was built in a really harsh desert environment, Dhirubhai ordered the creation of a massive greenbelt. They ended up planting over 102,800 mango trees around the refinery. That actually broke the historical record set by the Mughal Emperor Akbar for planting mango trees. Just a wild flex to add to the resume. Dhirubhai Ambani passed away after a final stroke in 2002. But the legacy he left behind is truly multi-generational, permanently landing Reliance on the global Fortune 500 list. I think this quote perfectly captures his whole vibe. Our dreams must be bigger, our ambitions higher, our commitment deeper, and our efforts greater. He was a guy who started with empty pockets, but had a completely unmatched vision for scale. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to chew on. Dhirubhai Ambani started out as a literal clerk pumping gas in the scorching sun, and step by step, he integrated backwards until he owned the entire chain. He built a kingdom just by noticing the tiny inefficiencies, like the raw silver in a coin or a stack of unused export licenses that everyone else just walked right past. So my question to you is this: what inefficiencies are you walking past every single day? Keep learning, keep looking closer, and we'll see you in the next explainer.